So many of us have heard this story, and if you haven't, I'll tell it. It's a story about a professor who shows a jar, a glass jar in a classroom, and he puts rocks in it to the brim, and then he asks, "Is this full?" And the class says yes. And then he adds little pebbles, and the pebbles kind of go in between the rocks, and he says, "Now is this full?" And the class says yes. And then he adds sand, and he asks the class, and the class says yes. And then he adds water. And once he added water, it was now full. So he had filled it with sand and water and pebbles and rocks. And so we talk about the big rocks as the key priorities. If he had filled it with sand and water first, those big rocks would have nowhere to go. It would all kind of overflow and spill out. So he made sure to put in the big rocks first, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, and then the water, so that he could make sure that the big rocks, the big stuff, was done first. And that's kind of an analogy for what we need to be doing. Instead of doing all the small things that aren't necessarily that important, do the thing that is going to make the biggest impact on your life, on your happiness, on your health, on your family, on your goals. So that is something that I like to kind of remind myself